Masquerade saying Honai Zimbabwe, welcome to our channel, Zen Confessions and Deep Secrets. Kanagara kiptanka kukuya paneno channel, please don't forget to subscribe. Subscribe, don't forget to comment and share this video. Nasi Honai Zimbabwe takigira inya buditswane the ruling party ye Zambia, the United Party for National Development. Yo ya Buda responda to a video ya Buda President Mnangagwa wachitaura na the Russian President Putin. Video hili rakaenda viral mshure mekunge Mnangagwa kabuda achitaura na Putin achitaura iye achiti Zambia is giving the West ground on African soil, achisuggest that Zambia is now Zimbabwe's enemy. So the ruling party Zambia kabuda achitaura achiti, we have taken note of a video circulating on social media of Zimbabwean President Mnangagwa and Russian President Putin during a bilateral engagement during which the country of Zambia was mentioned. Ziganzi kindly note that the Zambian mission in Zimbabwe and the two foreign affairs ministers are working to resolve this issue through diplomatic channels. We request that we avoid commenting on it until diplomatic channels are exhausted and official communication is provided. Ndozo kabuda shitaurwa the ruling party ya ku Zambia. Shakari another political activist Joseph Kalimbwe wakabuda achikomenta on this issue katara ivo achikurudzira ma Zimbabweans kuti asawanikwe achidividwa ne ma Zambians ne speech mre Zimbabwe. Todd mungondo wa Joseph Kalimbwe machitaura pamusoro penyaya iyi muba matizo zamuri kufunga mu comment section.
Hi guys, my name is Joseph Kalimbwe and I just wanted to comment on the video that came out yesterday in my individual capacity. That is, let me make that very clear. Now the video that came out yesterday from Russia was very unfortunate, where we saw a head of state from within SADC issue derogatory terms, speak about things of another nation. What we saw yesterday were words that have got the potential to widen the diplomatic divide that exists and that has always existed between our two nations. Zambia and Zimbabwe have always been together throughout the period, from the time of the Rhodesia years to the times of Nyansaland. Our three nations were together. But what was spoken yesterday by the president of Zimbabwe was very unfortunate, and we must be able to correct that narrative that one nation must be able to choose the friends of another. The direct foreign policy of one nation must be pursued by that nation without another nation trying to choose the friends of that country. So Zambia has for so many years chosen peace. That is what has always defined us. From the Kaunda presidents to every other Zambian that has taken the presidential oath, our nation has always stood firm to seek peace before confrontations. That is what we are. That is what we've always pursued. And that is what Kenneth Kaunda taught us. But the words that were spoken yesterday have got the potential to widen that gap, to widen that history that we've always held. In 1975, Herbert Chitepo was bombed and he died in Zambia. He was bombed by his own comrades that wanted to take control of the leadership in Southern Rhodesia. We must be able to speak about that political history. During that time, Kenneth Kaunda was very helpful in ensuring that our nation continues to pursue the fight of independence for all other nations in the region. That's what he did when he welcomed ZAPU forces into our country. They stayed in Lusaka and they spoke our languages. That is the historical background of where we've come from, and we must continue to pursue that peace. Now, when words are being spoken, words that have got the potential to divide us are being spoken, we must correct that narrative, because these words will be listened to by the next generation of leaders, and they'll feel we are enemies when we are not. We've always been friends, and we must pursue friendships. We must pursue peace before confrontation, and we must never in any way confront each other. Diplomacy entails that we sit on the table and discuss conversations that matter. Right now, our people are facing issues of unemployment. Our people are politically facing issues that have to do with a livelihood. Things that matter. This is the politics that we must pursue. We must never go across the oceans to speak ill of other nations. That should never be the politics that this region must pursue. Southern Africa is the most peaceful region on the African continent, and we must maintain that peace. We must ensure that our people can trade freely amongst themselves. And those that seek to divide us, we must correct that narrative and say peace should be the best option. And so those words that were spoken yesterday by the president of Zimbabwe, we must correct that narrative to say it was wrong for him to go to another nation and speak about the foreign policy of Zambia. Zambia is a nation that has always pursued peace. And let me say it once again, I'm speaking about this in my individual capacity, that our nation has always been that country that has fought to ensure that all other nations are free. From the time of Kaunda to every other Zambian that has taken the presidential oath and lived at our state house. That is what we've always been. And so we must be able now to transfer that political leadership to the new generation of leaders, those who take over the leadership, whether it is in Zimbabwe or in Zambia. We must never issue words and remarks that have got the potential to widen that history of where we've come from. And we must condemn those that seek to divide us. The words that were spoken yesterday were very unfortunate, especially at a time that SADC is set to meet for a SADC summit in Harare. We must unite. We must unite to ensure that our region continues to enjoy the peace that we've always enjoyed. We continue to enjoy a region that is free, that is stable, and that is able to stand on its own 2 feet. What we have learned from conflict that is happening in West Africa, that is happening in other parts of the continent, should be a backpoint, should be the backbone of us continuing to enjoy the peace that we have always enjoyed. We must learn from the mistake that others are learning, that diplomacy must be negotiated on the table, and that if people got issues, we must meet and have those issues resolved, not speak derogatory terms about other countries. And so we must condemn in very strongest terms what was spoken yesterday in Russia, and we must continue to maintain peace, because this is the only region that is peaceful, that is strong, and that has continued to stand on its own 2 feet, despite of all these other things. Look at what is happening in Mozambique. In Mozambique, there are terrorists that have always destroyed the livelihood of the people in the Cabo Delgado province. We must learn from that. We must learn from the political events that are happening and not repeat them. So going forward, we must continue to maintain the peace, and we must speak about those that seek to divide us and say this is the region of peace, this is the region that seeks to pursue that peace, and we are going to pursue it to ensure that our people are free, they are stable, and they are able to stand on its own 2 feet without being divided by any person whatsoever, whether that person is the president or not, whether that person is a cleaner or a gardener, whether that person is a politician or not. Ours must be to maintain the peace and ensure that we deliver safely this region to the next generation of its leaders, particularly in our two nations that have always maintained peace. Thank you.